listening to Reverb Radio. Welcome to the Josh Robinson Show. I am Josh. I hope everyone is having a wonderful week. It is Wednesday. That means it's time for a new episode of the Josh Robinson Show, the second on Reverb Radio. I've been having a lot of fun with Reverb Radio and getting that kind of off the ground, I guess, launching and everything like that. It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad to be in the creative spin of things again, and I've been having a lot of fun over on Twitch, and I'm genuinely happy doing this kind of stuff, and I don't know, there was a point where I was just kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and then kind of doing it now and getting into the swing of things again. I'm like, hell yeah. And today's episode is going to be a little short, as sometimes the Josh Robinson Show is. It's a perfect episode for a drive to work, or you're kind of waking up in the morning. I feel like this is a perfect show to put on for 15, 20 minutes and just kind of zone out and just hang out with me for a minute, because solo podcasts are very different than doing a podcast like I do with all the rest of my shows, having a co-host. A lot of people know that it's hard to do a solo podcast, but I kind of like it. I love having a co-host, but I kind of like it just being able to have like a short format show that's just about what I want it to be about, and then just move along with the day. So I hope whatever time of the day you're listening to this to, whether it's morning, night, whether you're having lunch or whatever you're doing, I hope you're having a good day, staying sane, staying safe, and just enjoying and trying to enjoy as much of life as you can at the moment, given the circumstances that we're in. I know that sounds like a broken record with people saying that, but this has been COVID and everything else that's been happening in this pretty disastrous year. We've been in COVID since March and just been in this lockdown, non-lockdown, second wave, no second wave kind of limbo for so long. And I know it can get a little straining on your mental health. So I hope everyone is just taking some time to just appreciate themselves and just kind of zone out and still remember that you are entitled and you do have the right to kind of distance yourself from the world every now and again. It's very important to stay informed, and it's very important to stay up to date with everything that's going on in the world, not just COVID, whatever it may be. But it is okay to take a step back and just kind of be like, okay, I'm going to chill for a minute. I'm going to zone out and not think about it for a minute. It isn't the wrong thing to do to not think about it for just a second. So I hope I can bring you a little comfort for the next 15 minutes or so, because I'm going to talk about something that makes me very happy. And everyone knows how much I love music, and everyone knows how much I love Hands Like Houses and Paramore and just different kinds of music. But one of my favorite albums ever is After Laughter by Paramore. And we're going to talk about that, the kind of journey to that album, the personal impact it had on me, and everything like that. But this kind of Josh's favorite albums kind of thing is going to be something that pops up every now and again on the Josh Robinson Show, because I think music is very powerful, and I think sharing music with other people is very powerful, because I think with music it's very personal. I think everything you listen to is very, like, there's a reason you're listening to it, whether it's just because it has a fun beat or it has a personal message in there or you relate to it in some way. Whatever it may be, there's something about it, and I think it says something about you when you say, hey, I like this song, and this person's like, okay, why? And then you can kind of chit-chat. It's a very easy conversation starter, and it's subjective. Music is subjective, so it's something literally out there for everybody. So I think you'll see these pop up every now and again, just to be kind of like, hey, what do you like about this album? What don't you like about this album? What's an album that's similar to this that kind of reminds you of that? And I love that discussion. So at any point in this show, when you feel like, oh, I can relate to that in some way, or I want to ask Josh this, feel free to tweet at me. Leave a comment in the YouTube comments or whatever, because I'm happy to have that conversation with people, and it's a distraction from kind of life at the moment. Music is a really easy way to unwind, and it's a really easy way to kind of take yourself out of the world for a minute and just kind of be immersed in the song or the album or whatever. So today we're going to talk about Paramore's After Laughter, one of my favorite albums ever. It comes off the heels of what I believe is my favorite album ever, and one of the greatest records ever made, in my opinion, is Paramore's self-titled record, Paramore, in 2013. But in 2017, Paramore released After Laughter, and it was a very different kind of album. It was less of that pop rock mentality and more of a heavy synth and more of a 80s new wave inspired album, and a lot of people were for it, a lot of people were. It was critically and commercially a huge success, and it is my second favorite Paramore album of all time, one of my favorite albums of all time, but I absolutely adore this album. So we're going to kind of break it down a little bit, and kind of go through the memory of how I discovered finding out about this album and the kind of excitement I had for it. So on January 19th, 2016, Hayley Williams, who is the lead singer of Paramore, the front woman, announced on Twitter that they're in the process of recording or getting ready to record a new album. They're in the process of writing a new album. And there was a lot of talk with Paramore because, as everyone knows with the history of Paramore, or doesn't know, they've had a lot of band members leave and come back, and they've had different struggles within, I think as any band do. And there was a point in time where Hayley and some other members of the band, I believe Taylor even said that Paramore probably won't make another record after Paramore, and especially coming off of the self-titled record, it's hard to follow up something that was that good. It was their peak. I feel like that will be their peak forever, but they definitely had a masterpiece in that album, and musically, lyrically, everything about that just kind of came together. And then with the leaving of Jeremy from the band, and they had some legal issues with that, and then kind of, Zach coming back, Zach Farrow, for the first time since Brand New Eyes. It's like, oh man, like it's a lot. And Taylor and Hayley are still there, but there was a lot of talk of them never making a record at them again. They just didn't want to. They didn't feel like there was not a point where they wanted to. And then kind of Zach coming back and everything like that, they kind of said, no, we want to do this. How are we going to do this? They started writing. It was recorded between June and November of 2016. And, the lead single, Hard Times, came off that album, and it was different. It was very different to anything, even for me. I remember hearing it for the first time. I'll never forget that night. It was I remember it was a Wednesday night that I heard it, and I was like, put it on, and the first, few beats come in, and you're like, oh man, this is very different to anything Paramore has ever done. And I knew that a lot of people do this with lots of bands. It's like, oh, they've changed, but I just feel like bands evolve, and if you stay stuck in the same kind of quote-unquote genre for the whole time, you become lost, and you become that victim of people being like, you're doing the same thing you were doing in 2005. So I guess no matter what, someone's going to complain. But it was a gradual evolution. I think if you listen to Brand New Eyes and you listen to the self-titled record, there's elements of them changing into what After Laughter is and was. So Hard Times came out, very different. I like that song. I thought it was cool and different. I guess different is the word I'm going to keep saying throughout this time for After Laughter, is it was so different to anything they've really had before. But it's weird because the tagline for this album was cry hard, dance harder. So it was a lot of kind of emotional lyrics and emotional messages to these songs, kind of disguised in an upbeat kind of tempo with a lot of these songs. Not all of them, but for the majority, a lot of them. So they did something different. Hayley said in many interviews since releasing After Laughter that she said, I was in some of the worst stages of my life, going through a divorce, kind of going through a weird time with alcohol, and she just says that I was in a very depressed stage, but I was on stage on tour throughout the After Laughter tour, kind of dancing my ass off, which is not something that she's used of, and it's not something that was, I guess, natural, but just kind of happened. So they released Hard Times. The second single off the record was Told You So, which is my personal favorite song off that album. I love Told You So. I think it's really, musically, that song is so good. Like, it's so good. The changes in riffs and chords and everything in that song is just so good. But I remember hearing that song and being like, oh man, like, they're really, really going at it with something different here, and I really like that. And then, of course, releases like Fake Happy, Rose Colored Boy, Caught in the Middle. I think Caught in the Middle is something that's a little bit, I guess, in a word, Caught in the Middle is a little bit kind of like left of field for this album. It feels more like an in-between of Paramore and After Laughter. It's not quite that 80s new wave inspired, but it's not quite like the pop rock or punk rock, whatever you want to call it, they were doing before. So that's kind of a weird sword. But Fake Happy, Rose Colored Boy, two outstanding tracks from that album. The whole album from top to bottom, I think the difference with me, and Paramore fans will get this, is that Paramore, the self-titled record, had some really outstanding tracks. Last Hope, Part 2, Still Into You. The list kind of goes on and on with that. And they were so amazing. And then they had kind of other tracks. None of them were bad, but they were just they were very much lesser than the big standout tracks. But those big standout tracks were so amazing that it kind of just heightened everything. With After Laughter, I feel like it was a little bit more, while there's some really good songs on there, it's a little bit more even with it. It was nothing too, like, amazingly outstanding, but nothing lesser. They all just got kind of a nice level of good. And there was some really good, and there was some good, but there was nothing floating around with, as opposed to Paramore, where there was some outstanding, and then some okay, and then some really good stuff. So I think that's the main difference, is why I like Paramore more than I like After Laughter, is that the outstanding songs really just shine through, and they're some of my favorite Paramore songs ever, and some of my favorite just plain right songs ever. So I think that's the kind of main difference, I guess, with After Laughter. But make sure you let me know on Twitter or on the YouTube comments below. This album in particular, After Laughter, what's some tracks you like from After Laughter? What's your kind of standout tracks? The standout tracks for me would be Told You So, Rose Colored Boy, Fake Happy, I love Idol Worship, and 26. I mean, 26 is a song that's just, out of all of this, it's, there's a lot of upbeat, a lot of moving around. You want to kind of move your body with this. 26 is that just beautiful, classic Paramore acoustic track that just kind of hits you in all of the emotions. I like when music brings out emotion, whether it be happiness, anger, sadness, whatever. I love when music does that. I'm a big music junkie in the sense of whether it be musically, lyrically, whatever I hear, that connection to a song is what gets me. Trust me, I love a good, club banger as much as anybody else, but there's no substance to it. I like when music has substance, and I'm not saying that pop music does not, because it does. I've said this many times, I don't really see genre when I see music. I kind of just float around and like what I like. But when something has substance, when something I can personally relate to, or personally connect to, or personally just feel, that's when I love music. And that's why I love Paramore and Hands Like Houses, because there's a little bit of depth to what I'm feeling, and among it, many others. But this album in particular, I felt in this stage, 2017, what's that, 3 years ago now, holy hell, 3 years ago this album came out, very early 20s, I'm kind of experiencing life and learning who I am as a person, and this album kind of makes you feel that in a weird way. There's many tracks on this album that I'm like, ooh, like I personally connect to that, and that's why I love this music as much as I do. But it's so different. Again, that early 80s new wave synth pop kind of vibe to this album. I don't think Paramore will ever necessarily do a whole album like this again, but I don't think they'll completely shy away from it. A track here or there might be like this, but I think it was a really, really great album and a good experiment. And I know a lot of people, again, be like, they changed, they did this. Again, I just feel like they've evolved, and this is kind of where the time was taking them. I just don't feel like it would fit again, personally, but that's just me. Whenever the time is right to make another Paramore record, they said they're going to do it. Hayley said, I've got some stuff in the works for Paramore. She's been dealing with her solo album, and that fantastic album, which will probably come up on some point. Petals for Armor was really, really different and really good, and so different to this, and so different to the self-titled record. Every Paramore album to me is so different, from All We Know Is Falling to Riot, Brand New Eyes, Paramore, and then After Laughter. all of them are so different, and you kind of pick them with what is your favorite. And there really is no wrong answer to me. All of their music is really good to me. I love them so much. I've grown up with Paramore, so to see this kind of happen too, to kind of have that kind of this different kind of music come from them, I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more, to be completely honest. I just really love this album. If you do like this album, again, tweet at me, at JoshRobinson00, YouTube comments below, or wherever you listen to this on, if you want to shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it may be. Talk to me about this record. Talk to me about other records that you like. And if you would like to come on and talk about your favorite albums, feel free to message me. I'm sure we can work something out. But this is After Laughter. So for anyone that has not heard, if you've listened to all of this and you have not heard After Laughter from Paramore, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, it's all there. Go and find it and just give it a chance, because it's musically very good, it's lyrically very good, and it's very different. If you're a fan of that 80s new wave style, I can nearly guarantee that you'll probably like this album. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I really hope you stay safe. Be kind to one another, as the one queen of NE would say. Enjoy the rest of the stuff that I've got this week here on Reverb Radio. I know we didn't have Ditz versus Josh this week. Ditz had a bit of an emergency. We'll be back next week with that. But I've got a lot of stuff on Twitch planned with SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 Road to WrestleMania, so you can hang out with me on Twitch throughout the week. Evolution week here on with myself and Queen. We're going to do an Evolution on Twitch through WWE 2K20. We're going to be on commentary. Of course, today as well, you'll hear the Evolution 2 card we're coming up with for that simulation later in the week on Queen's Court. So go to Smart to Death Radio and you can find that and everything that's going on. Stay with me on Twitter. Again, please be kind to one another and please stay safe in this time. Much love to you all, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.